आपकी मुलाकात भारत के एक बहुत ही विख्यात फिल्म मेकर डायरेक्टर के साथ करवाना चाहती हूँ। आपका नाम श्याम बेनेगल है और आपकी एक फ़िल्म हमारे यहाँ वैंकूवर में चल रहे फिल्म फेस्टिवल में दिखाई जा रही है। दरअसल उसकी 2 स्क्रीनिंग्स हो चुकी हैं। फिल्म का नाम है सूरज का सातवां घोड़ा। फिल्म के बारे में बहुत सुना है। श्याम बेनेगल वही हैं जिनकी बहुत ही मशहूर फिल्में अंकुर, मंथन वगैरह आपने भी देखी होंगी। आइए कार्यक्रम में उनका स्वागत करें और इस नई फिल्म के बारे में आपके लिए कुछ जानकारी उनसे हासिल करें। बेनेगल साहब, हमारे प्रोग्राम में आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है।
शुक्रिया।
आप हमारे इस शहर में बरसात लेकर आई हैं, उसके लिए हम आपको कसूरवार ठहराते हैं। वैसे हमारे शहर में बहुत दिनों के बाद बरसात हुई है और वैंकूवर के बारे में तो यही कहा जाता है कि साल में 12 महीने यहाँ बरसात रहती है। वैंकूवर में आपका पहली बार आना हुआ, कैसा लग रहा है हमारा शहर?
बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है वैसे। I've enjoyed the town very much. I wandered about yesterday.
अच्छा, यूँ घूमने निकल गए आप?
बस और बस शहर बहुत खूबसूरत है और लोग भी अच्छे हैं वैसे।
वो तो आपको कहना पड़ेगा, आप हमारे शहर में आए हुए हैं।
नहीं, you know, whoever I've met have been wonderful.
जब आप इस तरह से घूमने के लिए जाते हैं कहीं पर भी, तो क्या उस वक्त भी आपका जो दिमाग है वो फिल्मों के बारे में, किसी कोण के बारे में, किसी समस्या के बारे में, किसी एक एंगल को लेकर हमेशा सोचता रहता है कि कभी कभार आप वैसे भी थोड़ा सा मौज कर लेते हैं, सैर तफरी कर लेते हैं?
वो तो होता ही रहता है ना, फिल्म मेकर हैं आप तो बस फिल्म के बारे में तो सोचते ही रहेंगे
जी।
सबकॉन्शियसली तो रहता है दिमाग में। और कभी कभी कोई चीज़ देखने से या कोई चीज़ कहीं बात में कोई चीज़ चल जाती है और फिर शुरू हो जाता है, वो तो होता ही है।
आपकी ये जो फिल्म वैंकूवर में दिखाई जा रही है, इसकी बड़ी चर्चा है, सूरज का सातवां घोड़ा, उसके बारे में कुछ बताइए।
ये जो है बहुत मशहूर नावल है
जी।
डॉक्टर धर्मवीर भारती, उन्होंने लिखी थी ये नावल 1958 में। और ये तो मतलब हिंदी लिटरेचर में कोई एक वाटरशेड मार्क था।
अच्छा।
तब ये लिखा गया था उस ज़माने में। लेकिन उसके बाद अब उस वैसे तो किसी ने सोचा नहीं इसकी फिल्म बनाने के बारे में, क्योंकि फॉर्म इसका जो है बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स है। और तो मुझे इसी वजह से बहुत ही ये एक्साइटिंग प्रॉस्पेक्ट लगा कि
अच्छा।
इसको लेकर मैं फिल्म बनाऊं। और तो इसलिए मैंने सोचा कि अभी किस किस्म की फिल्म बनाएं इसके साथ। बिकॉज यू सी द मेन थिंग इज इट्स गॉट सो मेनी लेवल्स, मल्टीपल लेवल्स और परसेप्शन और रियलिटी के बारे में काफ़ी है। परसेप्शन, इमेजिनेशन, रियलिटी। और स्टोरी तो बहुत ही दिलचस्प है, क्योंकि एक 20-year-old बॉय और अभी नौकरी करना शुरू किया उसने, और उसके एक मोहल्ले में रहता है, इलाहाबाद के एक मोहल्ले में। और फिर वहाँ पर उसके दोस्त आके मुझसे मिलते हैं, वो अड्डा जमाते हैं वहाँ। और फिर बस बहुत सारी चीज़ों के बारे में बात करते हैं, जैसे पॉलिटिक्स है, लिटरेचर है, लव है, रोमांस वगैरह। तो इसमें वो कहानियाँ बोलने शुरू करता है, क्योंकि he is a great believer that love, when you talk about love or love stories in literature, they must have some kind of social meaning.
अच्छा।
Without them, it's quite useless. So,
अच्छा।
because he has very strong opinions, literary opinions also.
Idealistic.
Yes, not idealistic. It's a very peculiar, you know, because he's also a very opinionated young man.
अच्छा।
So he starts to tell a series of stories. And the stories he tells in order to define what love is. Love define करने के लिए शुरू करता है ये सब कहानियाँ. But at the end of those stories, he really is nowhere close to defining what love is. But the interesting part of it is that while he's telling these stories, these are all part of his mohalla. You know, the people are part of his mohalla. He himself is a participant in all of them. And the stories start to crisscross one with the other. Time situation starts to get mixed up. But they all emerge as real. But his friends, some of them believe him, some of them don't believe him. So you're never sure whether he's telling the truth or not.
So
it's a very great complex of imagination, fact,
and reality.
Yes, and reality. So, and of course, it ends with a danwoma at
Right.
the end, which is quite a surprise for a lot of people when they
Right.
see the film.
Uh-huh. Now, you've always tried to make films like this young gentleman, which has a message, a social bearing. आपकी पुरानी फिल्में अंकुर ले लीजिए, मंथन ले लीजिए, मंडी, भूमिका, आपने वेस्टर्न फिल्मों से प्रभावित होकर, मैंने बहुत कम आपकी फिल्म, मैं कोई फिल्म देखी नहीं जो आपने वेस्टर्न कहानी से प्रभावित होकर बनाई हो।
वो तो मैंने बनाई नहीं है, क्योंकि कोई ज़रूरत भी नहीं है। जो हमारी लिटरेरी ट्रेडिशन में बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, और काफ़ी लिटरेचर में बहुत ख़ास चीज़ें लिखे गए हैं, और कितने लिटरेचर्स हैं, कितने ज़बान हैं, कितने लिटरेचर्स हैं, और ओरिजिनल स्टोरीज़ भी बहुत सारे मैंने लिखे हैं और फिल्म बनाए हैं, जैसे अंकुर जैसे। और ये तो ओरिजिनल स्टोरीज थे, ये तो लिटरेरी बैकग्राउंड भी नहीं था उसका, ऑब्जर्व्ड रियलिटी की कहानियाँ थीं। तो इस किस्म के फिल्में तो अभी कोई ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ती है, क्योंकि अपने हिंदुस्तान में जो है, मतलब मटेरियल, देयर इज़ सो मच मटेरियल।
आप वो बात कह रहे हैं जो बाकी के फिल्म डायरेक्टर्स कहते हैं कि बिल्कुल नहीं है। बाकी फिल्म डायरेक्टर्स या फिल्म मेकर्स ये कहते हैं कि भारत में कोई चीज़ है ही नहीं, कोई लिटरेचर है ही नहीं, इसीलिए हमको बाहर की फिल्में चुरानी पड़ती हैं। तो ये टू थॉट्स हैं, वेज ऑफ थिंकिंग फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में। आप उस थॉट पैटर्न को बिलोंग करते हैं जो कि ये कहता है कि मेरे पास बहुत मटेरियल है, भारत में इतना मटेरियल है कि हम वहाँ से लेकर कहानियाँ बना सकते हैं। लेकिन जो मेजॉरिटी के लोग हैं, जो फिल्म मेकर्स हैं, वो बाहर की फिल्में चुरा के करते हैं। तो क्या आप अपने आप को उस बम्बई की फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में अकेला महसूस नहीं करते?
वैसे तो अकेला महसूस नहीं करता हूँ, क्योंकि आई फील आई एम एन हेयर टू द लार्जर ट्रेडिशंस। You see, the problem is that those people who say that are really dealing with the concept of trying to make a film successful. So in imitating a successful film, you hope to make a success of your film. तो मैं तो वो नहीं करता नहीं, तो I cannot do that. It's not even part of my sensibility. तो essentially problem इसी में है कि ये ऐसी बात नहीं है कि वो कहेंगे कि हिंदुस्तान में लिटरेचर नहीं है। लिटरेचर तो ज़रूर है, बहुत सारा लिटरेचर है, और बहुत सारी चीज़ें हैं, जैसे थिएट्रिकल ट्रेडिशन भी काफ़ी स्ट्रांग है, हर एरिया में है, म्यूज़िक में है, पेंटिंग में है, सब जगह। तो वो कोई, ये तो कोई ख़ास बात नहीं है।
But consequently, you are a loser as far as finances are concerned.
Well, consequently, I may not be as successful, but that's hardly of eventual importance, because I can still survive, make the kind of films I want to make, and I have always made the kind of films I want to make, and I enjoy making them. And what greater luck can a man have but to get the greatest amount of pleasure from his work? That's what I do.
आपने उन कलाकारों को जो कि भारतीय फिल्म जगत में नाम रखते हैं, माने रखते हैं, उनको इंट्रोड्यूस किया है, लोगों के सामने पेश किया है। स्मिता पाटिल एक ऐसी अभिनेत्री थी, शबाना आज़मी हैं,
नसीरुद्दीन
शाह हैं। तो आप जब इन लोगों के साथ काम करते हैं और उनको आज आप कमर्शियल सिनेमा में देखते हैं, तो एक कलाकार के लिए तो हर एक तरह की फिल्मों में काम करना चाहिए, लेकिन नसीरुद्दीन शाह को मैं जब किसी कमर्शियल फिल्म में देखती हूँ तो मुझे वो मज़ा नहीं आता जो कि आपकी बनाई हुई फिल्मों में उसको देख के मज़ा आता है। और मेरे विचार में शायद नसीरुद्दीन शाह भी इस तरह से महसूस करते होंगे।
वैसे तो क्या होता है कि ये इट्स अ मैटर ऑफ सर्वाइवल। हमारे फिल्में जो हैं, उतने फिल्म तो बना नहीं सकते हम, और कम फिल्में बनती हैं और कमाई भी उतनी नहीं हो सकती है। तो बट फॉर एन एक्टर टू सर्वाइव, he has to work in all kinds of films.
Right.
And he has less of a choice than a director.
Right.
That is often the problem. So because the director wants to make a film, but an actor has to be chosen to play a part. You see, so he really doesn't have that kind of choice. Only when he becomes a star, yes. Now Nasiruddin Shah is a big star today. Shabana Azmi is a big star. Smita used to be a very big star. Unfortunately, she died. And then a whole lot of others, who Amrish Puri, for instance, Om Puri, a whole lot of these people, because they started with our kind of cinema. You know, they started with serious films, but they have become very big stars in popular Indian cinema now. but they do come when we ask them to come and work for a pittance.
Right.
Because I mean, Amrish Puri probably takes one 500th part of what he earns for a single film there to act in a film of mine.
But did you ever feel that these big titans, great artists, ever had any ego problems?
No.
Like
No.
Om Puri and Nasiruddin Shah?
None at all. That's actually, it's the world, you know, the outside world starts to feel that. It is true that after all, film business is an egocentric profession.
And very competitive.
Comparatively, because constantly the focus is on you and you are reflected back to yourself. And naturally there is a certain amount of egocentricity involved in it. That one knows. But having said that, in fact, there are hardly any ego problems between actors, between directors, actors, actresses, hardly any. I haven't come across that in my own career, with certainly not these actors, who are they're really true blue actors. You know, they're real metal.
Right. Give them
Excellent, excellent actors and actresses, and serious about their profession. Because there are people who can become stars, but without necessarily being superb professionals.
Right, right.
That also happens.
That's true.
Yes, and when that happens, there's a problem.
A lot of filmmakers always want to work with the great Amitabh Bachchan, whom people call a great actor. I think he's a good actor. I have my reservations about some of his abilities, but I sometimes feel that he's one of the actors who's never been exploited to his fullest. As a filmmaker, do you see him in a role that you could design for him and he would act?
Absolutely, because he is a superb actor. Superb actor with a great deal of versatility. The only problem has been, you see, when you become a superstar
And an image.
and an image, a
Right.
public image,
Right.
then if you break that public image, the following will feel betrayed. You know, the audience
Right.
that has this public image of that particular actor, they will feel betrayed. It doesn't matter what performance quality
Right.
you have,
Right.
but if you're not playing to your public image, then the audience feels very betrayed. And that is really the reason why it's very difficult to take Amitabh. You know, and it's taking too many chances with his career.
Right.
And because I would love to use him,
Right.
because he's such a wonderful actor.
Right.
But how to do it? Because sometimes you can be trapped by your own public image.
Right.
It's very difficult, you know.
You've made some fascinating and beautiful films, and the question I'm going to ask you might be difficult for you to answer. I want to find out which was the film that you enjoyed doing the most out of all your films.
Well, you see, for me, there has never been favorites. I don't play favorites with my own films. They're like my children.
That's right,
And
exactly.
it's very difficult to play favorites with
Right.
your children. It's the same thing. I mean, they're all very dear to me. Some have had more heartaches than others.
Right.
You know, some you felt that they could have been a little better than they actually turned out to be. But you'd hate to admit it to anyone. It's like, you know, what do you do with your children?
Right.
You know, not all of them can be as bright as you'd like them to be.
Very well said. You've also turned to some documentaries that you've made. There's a beautiful Bharat Ki Khoj, Discovery of India, was it called?
Yes, Bharat Ek Khoj.
Bharat Ek Khoj. That is very
52 hours.
52 hours.
It's all of history, all of Indian history,
From day one.
from day one. And partially dramatized, partially documented. It's a series. I used over 500 actors
Wow.
in the whole series and built about 144 enormous sets. Shot it over 1.5 years and researched it for about 5 before that.
Right.
So it was an enormous project. It was a lifetime project, actually, because I don't think in television series anywhere in the world, when you have a series that runs for so long, over one whole year, you'd have only one director.
That's true.
And I
That's
was
true.
the...
And you've done that.
Yeah, I've done that.
Out of out of all the new programs that are coming on television, and television is bombarding India like nobody's business. There is competition from Hong Kong, competition from England. I understand now Doordarshan has announced 4 new channels.
Oh, they've already started.
They've already started
on satellite.
And how is that affecting the daily lives of Indians there?
Oh, well, you see, that requires a great deal of study. It's very difficult to assess because the 4 satellite channels of Doordarshan at the moment have to be picked up by cable. And at the moment, it isn't as though everybody can afford to put their own little antennas and dishes, to catch the satellite signals. So you have to depend on cable operators.
Right.
And the cable operators at the moment in India give you about 8 different channels, of which 2 they keep for themselves and 6 they get from CNN and BBC and 4 channels of Star, which comes from Hong Kong.
Right.
So the satellite television programs of Doordarshan have not yet got root. But what is going to happen is they're going to become terrestrial channels, which means that you'd be able to pick it up normally without a dish.
Oh, I see.
And when that happens, then we are going to have quite a plethora of channels running, and then it's a question of real choices for people who are going to watch television.
Do you think people are going to
Yes,
become...
but the real crisis at the moment is the crisis of software.
Right.
We don't have enough software, and well, people are producing. But then, it also depends, as you know, there's a certain kind of economics to television. And that works on, because if you're going to derive all your software production expenditure from sponsors entirely and from advertisers,
That's not going to
it's not going to be, you're not likely to produce too many quality programs.
No.
You're going to produce them on the cheap.
very mediocre.
Yes, and they're likely to be mediocre, as they have been for some time. So I'm one of those people who have always argued that Doordarshan cannot simply be a rentier. Liberalization is a wonderful thing, but liberalization should not automatically mean that you just become a rentier of a channel.
That's true.
You've got to have some kind of thoughts about what you're going to be doing and what kind of software you actually wish to encourage.
Right.
Now, this hasn't happened, which means it's just that films or film-based material keep getting rehashed into programs. So much of the time what you're seeing are reviews.
Right.
And little presenters doing a whole lot of reviews. But surely you cannot base the strength of your television only on that. It has to have original production.
That's true.
And production of a certain amount of quality, which has entertainment quality, it has educational quality, it has certain cultural quality involved in your programming to keep your audiences.
Do you think it's promoting Indians to be lazy with so many programs bombarded at them?
Oh, I don't think, I'm not really terribly worried about all that, because it's all part of a whole developmental scheme. There are problems, of course, because in a country like India, where the disparities are quite noticeable on practically all levels, large part of the disparity, apart from the economic disparities, is also levels of education, and that makes for varying perceptions of what you see on television.
That's true.
And that can lead to, according to me, to serious problems in the future, because if you're going to show, you're going to advertise very expensive consumer durables, or you're going to have people running around in bikinis down on the beach to an audience consisting of villagers in a little hamlet very far away from the city, you simply don't know what impression you're making on them.
No, exactly.
And you don't know because this is so far outside of their own experience. So it's very difficult, So one doesn't know what's in store for the country and what this impact is going to lead to.
Well, I can sit here and talk to you for hours, and so can you, but I understand you've got commitments because your film is being screened this evening. Would you ever think of making a film in Vancouver?
Oh yes, definitely. I would love to make a film here. There'll be so many wonderful subjects to deal with.
Right.
I think one of the interesting things at one time I was working on a project with a Canadian partner of doing a film here, particularly about the experience of the early immigrations to Canada. I mean, going back, Vancouver being the best example,
Right.
Starting in the late 19th century.
Right.
And all this, maybe the impact of this, and so many things, because there are so many stories to tell.
Oh, there are millions of stories to
yes.
tell, and some of them very beautiful ones
Yes.
too.
So this is what I thought at one time, and perhaps if it works out again, maybe. But that fell through when I was planning this. But this is many years ago, about 13 or 14 years ago.
There is a new film being made on the Kamagata Maru, which was a ship.
Yes.
that
No,
came
I know
here.
the Kamagata
Right.
Maru story. That's how I came to know of a place called Vancouver in school. Yes.
So Om Puri, I think,
Yes.
has been signed up for that film,
Yes.
and it's going to start production next year. So it would be nice to see films about people who have made a difference and brought the culture of India outside of India,
Yes.
and try to retain it and fight for their own rights and yet be Indians.
Yes. Because the Ghadar movement is more than a footnote
Certainly.
in the freedom struggle of our country. And there was a film made many years ago, but it didn't. It wasn't quite so well made. It had Shashi Kapoor playing the main part in it,
I see.
about the Kamagata
Right,
Maru, but
right.
it was called Ghadar.
Ghadar, I see.
Yes, but this is about 25 years ago.
Oh,
But it was hampered by
Right.
not having enough money and not being able to shoot here.
right.
All sorts of problems.
I thank you very much for coming to our studios and taking time out to talk to us. And I hope that we be able to see this film commercially. I hope it is released here in Vancouver. And I thank you very much once again, and have a very pleasant visit here.
Thank you.